Well, and because schools are so important, we do need to make sure that the voters know who they are electing, sending to these to represent them in these seats, so they're a true reflection of the community. There was a member that testified, or a gentleman that testified, that said, I was talking to a school board member, and they said, "You'd be surprised to know my party affiliation." Well, we don't want to be surprised. We want to know how you're going to represent us when you go in. That's kind of the point.
It's hilarious.
You can be young and run for office. You don't have to have everything figured out because, shocker, even the older people who've been there for 30 years don't know everything either. If you like to pretend that they do.
It's like the emperor has no clothes, right?
Exactly. Again, if you know exactly what you believe and why, you're not going to be shaken from that. And I think that's what we need. They ask me all the time, how do we get younger people involved? And I think that's a larger question, not just going after younger candidates, because a lot of people in my generation, you don't want an office. They don't have the principles. They've been indoctrinated by the publics, or really the industrial complex of the schools.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, absolutely. And they don't have the principles or understand what makes America special, what it means to be American, or that we are a Judeo-Christian nation. We have founding principles we need to abide by. And I think it's a larger issue of education to get them wanting to be involved in government in the first place, because if you're taught from age 4 to 18 that your country's horrible, it's racist, why would you ever want anything to do with it and be involved? And I also think there's an education piece of, we're a constitutional republic. Again, whenever people say democracy, I want to fight them.
It drives me crazy.
It is. We are a constitutional republic. I mean, that's what we pledge allegiance. And I think a lot of people think that the president is the most important thing. That's what we should be focusing on, and it absolutely matters. But in a republic, what's closest to you actually matters the most.
That's right.
So even starting small, running for your school board, running for dog catcher, whatever it is, kind of putting your foot in there, because the people who don't want the power, I actually think are the best people who want to be there.
You got to hit on that. So a lot of people may not know this, but you kind of are a rock star. You've performed on Letterman.
I've been on the Letterman show, Oprah, Joan Rivers, Entertainment Tonight, Access Hollywood. Opened up for Kenny Rogers, Conway Twitty, Loretta Lynn.
Holy smokes.
Debbie Boone and I did a concert together in Louisville. Used to tour with Wolfman Jack.
Wolfman Jack.
Yeah, that's right. His real name is Bob Smith, actually.
Oh, that's
in fact,
amazing.
he and I were the first time we performed together was in the Virgin Islands. His real name is Bob Smith, and one night we were out eating at a place called The Wreck on the island of St. Croix, which was named after a shipwreck that had occurred just off the coast. And I said, Wolf, and his nickname for me was Monk, and
Was Monk?
Monk, because he said I was the most conservative entertainer he had ever met in his life, so he called me Monk. And
here's the hard thing I have with kind of our taxes in Indiana. We spend an exorbitant amount of taxpayer dollars on Taj Mahal schools and libraries, all of these things that we're doing just fine as they were. I mean, but we'll do AstroTurf fields and stadiums and natatoriums and all these things that really you don't need for good education. If you want to talk about good education, you talk about paying your teachers really well, making sure you've got good curriculum, making sure kids can get to school, and they're safe, right? Those are the things that you got to worry about. But for whatever reason, we've got keeping up with the Joneses mentality going on. Like, well, Carmel did this and Westfield did this, and Vincent, and I think that's what's really drying up all the wells of taxpayer dollars.
I would agree, and I'll tell you that I've never tried to keep up with the Joneses. I know what we can do and what we can't do, and
you're not over the schools. I mean, you're the mayor, right? But I think when people look at the holistic and they see, well, the schools are just building these multi-million-dollar, Olympic-sized pools,
our school corporation have been pretty good about, they've taken our old grade schools, and some of them are really, really old, and just updated them, and rather than build a whole new school
facility,
that would have been millions of dollars. So they've invested in the infrastructure they've got now and making it.
And get this, one of the unique things we're putting in this about 3,000 square foot workout facility, exercising facility for parents, particularly for moms. So guess what moms don't have time to do? They don't have time to go to Planet Fitness. They don't have time to go to Spin. They don't have.
Planet Fitness is super far left, so you don't want to go to Planet Fitness anyway. So,
You're probably right.
What sort of prepares you for what you're doing now?
So I started my career as an attorney, serving as a deputy attorney general. So I was just down the hall here, working for first Curtis Hill and then General Rakita. And really, while I was there, it really handled a lot of appeals, particularly the politically sensitive cases. When we talk about life, school choice, the Second Amendment. I was the guy writing the briefs that go to the Supreme Court. It was an awesome experience. I also pay like $12 an hour or something starting out. And, I honestly, there just came a point where this was a great experience. Also, got to provide for your
Yeah, you gotta
family.
make some money, yeah.
So I moved across the street to a private firm, but it was such a foundational experience for me and just an awesome chance to work on issues that were near and dear to my heart.
Isn't it amazing that the guy actually writing the briefs to the Supreme Court is making less than you would make, I think, at probably Wendy's?
I think I could have made more at Wendy's than I did in state government. That's right.
Trump first got in, I was like, I'm moving to South Africa. And one of my
You said that?
Yeah.
My goodness, we're going to have to you've got a little bit of TDS that we're going to have to work on here because that's...
I was like, I got to get out of here. But he did help my taxes first as a senior.
And you know what? We just passed a big, beautiful bill just not too long ago, so you got more tax breaks coming. You're welcome. On behalf of President Trump, Terry, you are welcome.
We're a community-facing agency, so we're out there. Like yesterday, I was in Aurora, down in Dearborn, way down in Dearborn County. They didn't know how to apply for a certain thing. They had a flood that floods their whole downtown. Very nice area, right in the Ohio River. I was able to talk to them, get them plugged into their leads. We're out there in the community talking to these people. That's what type of agency we are. I mean, not all agencies are going to do that. Some of them are just going to be in their offices downtown. We're not. We're out there in the field.
I love it.
We're going to keep doing it. My goal is at least 100 communities by the end of the summer. I'm probably well over 50, 60 by now. And then by that, and we want to circle back again just so we really have a good picture of the state. You're learning things.
This is what I tell people when they always say, hey, this is a Republican-Democrat issue. If you really want to narrow it down, it's really never political. Because if you want to compare Republicans, compare a New York Republican to a Tennessee Republican.
Sure, right. Yeah, very different.
If you want to compare Democrats, compare an Indiana Democrat to a California Democrat.
Sure. Yeah, very different.
Very different views on a lot of public policy issues.
So the election night happens, you win by 90-ish votes. Not many, right? I mean, it's amazing to think that the executive leader of a city, even though it's a smaller town, but still you're the executive, was decided by 90 people.
Yeah,
right. I mean,
a few families. You really think about it. Just a few families came in, and you're right. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is, and it changes the direction of a city, right? I mean, had you not won it, city could have been very much in a totally different direction. So it goes to show the importance of getting involved locally, and that's a big passion of mine, is teach people, hey, be educated, learn the system, understand what's going on when it comes to the governance of your community. And you may say, well, it's just a small town. Well, there's a lot of amazing things that can happen in small towns.
So first of all, I went to St. Mary's with the expectation that I would have a Christian conservative education. I could not have been farther from wrong.
Wow.
Quickly discovered that whenever I went to St. Mary's, I found out that, well, the best way to describe it is St. Mary's is definitely just a hotspot for feminist misery. It's an all-girls school. It's an all-girls Catholic school.
So you said feminist misery.
Feminist misery is the best way to describe St. Mary's, because they focus so much on women's empowerment, but yet every single class teaches about how we're oppressed because men are in charge. One of my first political science classes, the very first day, my professor said, all of government is all old, straight white people, and that's a problem. And then continues to spend the entire semester talking about how this is the system that we can't unravel unless we completely gut the Constitution. So it's these America-hating feminist misery principles that I'm getting education on.
Wow.
Why I'm still there, I mean, that's, I guess, another story. But I've just been astonished to see how far left St. Mary's is.
Yeah. People ask me, how's it being a Christian in prison? You wouldn't believe. It makes or breaks your faith, because every day you got eyes on you. You got dudes ready to see if it's real, and they're ready to call you out.
Yeah.
They're ready to pounce on you if you're fake. But the blessing in that is every day.
Sounds like the State House, actually. I mean, it gives you perspective. I mean, we go through, probably this much of what the Trump family has gone through.
Oh,
I look at that and I'm
absolutely.
thinking, oh my goodness, like, can you imagine what President Trump and Melania and their kids have had to endure over the last few years? And we're getting a little bit of a taste of it.
Sure.
And I mean, so when you see other warriors in the battle, like President Trump, who's able to he's so resolute and able to stand his ground, and he keeps fighting back. it gives you a little bit of, courage to be able to say, oh, well, if he can do that, then I certainly can go through this. And if his family can go through that, then our family certainly can go through what we're
Absolutely.
going through. Yeah.
And we are bold, and we don't want to back down from that. And so, by no means am I, saying I am proud that we are in the fight, and I do agree. I think we probably only get a taste of that. Just some days are easier than others, but that's okay. That's like I said, I know we've been called to this season.
There was the mask mandate that Eric Holcomb had put out. I remember seeing that. I was like, this can't be happening in Indiana. Our governor doesn't have this type of fiat dictatorship authority where he can just write on a piece of paper, the law is you have to wear a mask.
And you will go to jail if you don't. I mean,
That's crazy.
That was what was interesting about it.
Yeah.
He created a statute by executive authority, making it a Class B misdemeanor to not wear a mask.
That's insane.
And he,
crazy.
And he did this. He did this in a press release. And I remember the same day we brought our team together, and by 9 o'clock that night, I had an opinion out that said, no, you don't have the authority to do this.
Yeah.